Okay, thank you for that picture. Joel, we'll go back up to you, George, N6YG. How did you copy that over?
Quite a few pixel pops on my end. I'm not sure if it's just pave pause or what. Looks like a convention, like the lobby of a hotel or something, maybe. Furniture right out of the 60s, though. I don't know. That furniture looks like it would be comfortable on my back. With my back problems, it's hard to find good chairs. So the split image on the bottom looking out the windows, trying to figure out what that is in the background. I'd say it was a nuclear reactor, but there's only one dome and I don't see a cooling tower, so who knows what it is. An airport. Barb says it might be an airport. Other than that, the picture came over relatively well. I see a couple escalators. I think those are escalators. Is that escalators on both sides? Fancy. Wonder where this is at. You'll have to tell us, Joel. N6YG.
Okay, thank you very much for that, George. How about you, Bob, N6PGQ? How did you copy that? Something happened to my picture. I got it like split halfway down. Got the bottom half on top and the top half on the bottom. It's strange. But over to you. Over.
Well, it looks like we have a convention center of some type, and we're looking out one of the windows at the outdoor section. Looks like this is a small lobby with some chairs and tables. And then the top picture, we've turned around a little bit, and it looks like the convention floor, and it almost looks like it's the end of the convention. They're breaking everything up, and be interested to know where it is. Almost looks like Moscone Center, but I don't recognize anything around the outside of it, and I don't remember chairs like that. N6PGQ.
Okay, thank you for that, Bob. So, Joel, why don't you tell us about this picture? Explain it to us, this KP Fremdy.
Fun mentioning Moscone Center. You know, I think I've been there, but probably 30 years ago, so I don't think anything I remember is probably still there. I have been a number of times to the Metreon, which is kind of across the street, kitty corner from Moscone Center. Anyway, the area's changed a lot in 30 years, to put it mildly. This is not San Francisco, though. This is Las Vegas. This is the Las Vegas Convention Center West Hall, which they just finished fairly recently, a year or two ago. I'm not sure exactly how long ago, but it's fairly recent. And this is, both these shots are about 50 feet from each other on the third floor. The top is overlooking the main entrance lobby on the south entrance. And I think those are tables. So for DEF CON, they actually set up some tables down there for people to sit at and to relax at. And yes, lots of escalators. So it's 3 floors. So you've got on the right side, upper right side, you've got one escalator going to the second floor from the first floor, and another one going to the third floor from the second floor. And the one kind of in the center, I think, is going from the second floor to the third floor. There must be I'm trying to remember where there's lots of escalators, lots of elevators and escalators and stairs, and oddly enough, I think only one elevator bank, which seems a bit mismatched. But a huge display. That display just off right of center is an LED display that had video playing on. Absolutely huge, amazingly high resolution display. The bottom is overlooking the what did they call it? Terrace. Yeah, the terrace outside. In the background, the kind of round thing is the Sphere. That's that new venue that U2 played in, and they've got some other musical acts that play there. It's got LED displays on the outside and the inside. And kind of center of that, just a little to the right of the Sphere, you might see kind of an arc round thing. That's the high roller. It's a big Ferris wheel. I include this as part of ham because one of the days there I actually went out onto the terrace and set up a radio station and tried operating and had some really nice conversations explaining ham radio to people that walked by wondering, what the heck are you doing? Miserably hot. The sun had just set and the sun had spent a whole day just kind of like baking that terrace and the stones in it. So it was not when there was no breeze. So back to net AI6DG. When I run out of time and all of a sudden I hear the beep, I know I've been talking too long. Back to net AI6DG.
Okay, AI6DG's KP4MD, thank you very much for the explanation. Any other comments on this picture?
Actually, one quick one. This place is unbelievably large. You get tired just walking from one end of it to the other. Back to net AI6DG.
Okay, so it's a physical workout to go and attend this place and just go from one end to the other. Very good. Thank you very much for sharing that. I'm going to go ahead and send a picture I've got ready. This is going to be PD120. Okay, we'll start off with you, Joel. AI6DG. How did you copy that, and do you have any comments on that? Over.
Good reception. A fair number of pops, but nothing super severe. We're looking at a circuit board. We've got a bunch of relays, a bunch of wound toroids that are gooped to the circuit board. Lots of surface mount caps and transistors and ICs. A cable running, a red and black cable running to a plug on the lower right. We got label sections, second harmonic, a bunch of L numbers for the coils. Fundamental, a bunch of L numbers for the coils. An arrow pointing at some FETs that says FETs. L19, second harmonic, a bunch of L numbers. Fundamental, a bunch of L numbers. I would think antenna tuner, but because you're talking about harmonics and fundamentals, I'm thinking those are probably bandpass filters or high-low pass filters. I'm not sure which. So this is probably filters on a transceiver or a receiver. It's interesting that they're gooping the coils. I've gotten conflicting answers as to whether that's a good idea or not, and whether it affects the permeability or characteristics of the coil. A really good talk they touched upon that last year at Pacificon. I think they were talking more about PVC and what you wind, the material you wind the coils on, but the question did come up about whether it's a good idea to goop them on a board like that. Back to net, AI6DG.
Okay, thank you for that, Joel. How about you, George, N6YG, KP4MD?
I really don't have much to add that Joel didn't already cover. I don't see enough capacitors on this to be a tuner. A lot of inductors and RF relays of FETs and inductors, and I'm thinking it's a filter board of some kind. Not input tuning either. At first I thought it might have been for like input tuning, but no. And I agree with the potting of the inductors. I'm not sure that that's really a good idea. I'm not sure how much effect it has at RF frequencies, but in audio equipment it's probably not a good idea. They do it in audio to just prevent vibration. But anyways, yeah, back to net, N6YG.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to pass it over to Bob, see if you have any comments on this N6PGQ, over.
Well, not much more than what's been said. There's a few pixel pops that are apparent throughout. Somebody is a toroid winding nut, so I'm going to be interested to know what this is in 6PGQ.
Is this a kit?
No. This is KP4MD. This is a view of the. It's a transceiver. It's a Chinese transceiver. It's a USDX Plus. It's a single board QRP transceiver, and what you're seeing there is the low pass filters. It's an 8-band transceiver. 80 meters through 10. They do skip 12 meters, so it just covers those 8 bands. And you can see next to the relays the actual meter band, like the one of the lower left-hand corners, 80 meters. Then to the right of it says 40 meters. You could read it right off the board. And it's a Class E final. Those 3 FETs on the left there are all wired in parallel. And this transceiver is supposed to put out peak 5 watts. L19 is it's a what they call an RF choke that's in the drain, going to the drain of the FETs, and then those relays switch in the low pass filter. The low pass filter consists of a series resonance circuit at the fundamental frequency, and then there's a what they call an LC trap at the second harmonic for each of those bands. Even given that way, I think that the tuning of these things is not very good, because this transceiver on several bands does not pass FCC specifications for emission purity. There's some excessive harmonics getting out of this thing. Yeah, and so it's not a kit. This comes this way, and I actually have this radio on loan from James AE6JG. So I went through the schematic and identified which were which of those coils that were in the schematic diagram in case somebody wanted to go ahead and try to tweak the spacing on the coils there to try to maybe optimize the tuning of those traps. But I want to make one comment. Some people, uh, when they're talking about fundamentals on harmonics, when they're talking about double the fundamental frequency, that's actually the second harmonic. And I've heard some people erroneously call it the first harmonic. There is no such thing as a first harmonic. The second harmonic is double the fundamental frequency, and the third harmonic is 3 times the fundamental frequency. So I don't know if anybody's also heard that kind of erroneous terminology. So this is KP4MD.
When you mentioned that, I noticed the 80 meter, 40 meter, 60 meter. You can see it right there across on the circuit board. I think everybody was so focused on the inductors that they missed that.
What was the name of the board again?
Yeah, it's the Micro SDX Plus or USDX Plus. You can buy them on Amazon for I think like $120 or something, and it's supposed to be CW, digital, and a single sideband, and it's a minimalist type of transmitter. So it's supposed to be kind of experimental. Then I guess that's why they the quality of the voice transmission on this is about 20% distortion. It's a kind of a innovative way that they synthesize the single sideband using a Class E amplifier, and they're doing modulation right in the final. Over. Yeah, and I'm thinking the reason they group these toroids to the board, because if they didn't do it in shipping, these things would probably bounce all over the place. And just given the way that the quality of Chinese construction is, I think that this is probably a wise thing for them to do. Just my thoughts on it.
Shipping them from China, if they didn't goop them to the board, they'd tear the traces out from all the vibration in the boxes being dropped, right?
And they're using it on the edge of the toroid, not the middle, so it's just enough to attach it to the board. So that's not too bad. Even if there is an effect to the toroid, it's minimized.
Okay, yeah, that those cables going to that jack in the lower right-hand corner, that's actually going to an internal speaker. That little box in the lower left-hand corner has an internal speaker. So, and that the sound comes out through a couple of, there's some holes in the front panel that allow the sound to come out. Kind of interesting the way they all package it together, and it actually works halfway decently. Unless you turn the volume way too high, you'll start to get microphonics, but generally it works pretty well. As far as the receiving goes, it's a noisy receiver. I have to say that it's several dBs less sensitive than a standard amateur radio transceiver. But again, it's very cheap. I think I've actually seen these things sold for as little as $99. KP4MD. Okay, I have nothing further. George, if anybody else has any picture that they want to send, please go ahead and do that. Otherwise, George, maybe you want to go ahead and wrap it up with one of your 70s read pictures.
Actually, I've got one more picture if anybody's interested. It's the Chinese, the Amazon attenuator. I was going to send this in PD120 and see if that maybe improves your ability to read the print. The text, I mean.
Yeah, okay. I don't think it's any problem. Why don't you go ahead, George? Okay, yeah, KP4MD, your CWID and the repeater CWID came one right after the other, was perfect timing. I don't know if I can see very much difference there. Maybe a little clearer. What do you say there, Bob? N6PGQ, KP4MD.
Well, the quality appears to be slightly better than the last time we saw this. As I mentioned before, there just aren't any pixel pops. Really good, good video in 6PGQ.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. How about you, Joel, KP4MD?
I see some blues, reds, greens on the top half. The bottom half's pretty clean. There's a few, but not as many as on the top half. But overall, regardless, top or bottom, it's a good reception. Is this different from the first one? Because it sure looks an awful lot alike. Or is that the objective of all of this? How you're comparing the two and they're pretty much the same?
Yeah, all I can say is the thing that was really a trick for me to try to read was where it says marker frequency, and I thought it was kilohertz to begin with. I can kind of more make out the MHZ there, 2,000 to 6,000. The other text is pretty much the same. It's all kind of fuzzy. Back over to you, George.
This is a good test to see which one of these modes is best for sending text. It's fairly large text. No, this is slightly different. This is the first one was the calibration standard. That was the Agilent calibration standard. And then this one is the $10 SMA 10 dB attenuator from Amazon. And so the difference is 9.99 dB versus minus 9.84 dB. So, you know, a difference of 0.15 dB difference between a $10 attenuator and a $700 attenuator calibration standard. So that's not bad. That's good enough for just about anybody. I'm pretty impressed with some of the stuff I've been picking up on Amazon lately. So this was not swept. This is done at a single CW frequency at 2 gigahertz. It's how I like to check these things, so I can really refine the dynamic range of the equipment to get a real precise measurement. I also checked these just compared them on a nano VNA, and it was relatively close. It was within like 0.1 dB of the lab equipment. So again, good enough for what we use it for here on ham radio. Very impressive. I checked them also on a HP 8753C network analyzer, just for comparison of 3 different pieces of equipment to check, and they're all relatively close. This all started. I got started on this again because I was curious about what effect all the PL259s I was having have in my 440 system right now that I'm using right now. I have to actually take one out of line and when I do this because the SWR is so high, and I was actually kind of stunned with my early testing on what a half a dozen PL259s will do to a 440 frequency. I have an ongoing feud with W8JI on PL259s at 400 megahertz. We have a disagreement on that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, George. Yeah, now I see it's the marker frequency megahertz. It's actually 2000.0000. Now I can see. I thought it was 2000 dash and then a higher frequency. Now I can understand it was taken at a single frequency, and that's pretty darn close, like you say, for something that's that cheap. Of course, you know, for the people who need absolute, you know. Critical accuracy by a primary standard or secondary standard, that might not be good enough, like for that kind of specs. But for general hobby use, I could see there's no problem. It's certainly usable. Any other comments on this, KP for MD? Okay, nothing heard. If nothing else, maybe George, you want to go ahead and send one of your 73 pictures so we can wrap up the net. Over.
Okay, I think I have one here I can send. Let's see, N6YG. Well, that's interesting. Hold on a second.
Okay, thank you very much, George, for that picture to wrap up our net. Thanks to all who participated in tonight's Slow Scan TV net. We hope to see you again next Wednesday at 9 p.m. This net is now officially closed at 9:57 p.m. Pacific time. This is Carol, Killer Pop 4 Mike Delta, wishing you all a good evening and 73.